In a small, quiet town, surrounded by dense forests, there stood a grand estate that belonged to one of the wealthiest families in the area. The estate had high walls, sprawling gardens, and a large, beautiful house that seemed to hold secrets within its walls. Lizzie, a 17-year-old girl with a curious mind and a gentle heart, lived there with her father, Charles. Lizzie's mother had passed away when she was just a child, leaving her father to raise her alone. For years, Lizzie and her father shared a peaceful life. But one day, Charles announced he had met someone new. Her name was Margaret, a charming and elegant woman he had met through a mutual friend. Margaret was recently widowed, and she seemed kind and caring. Lizzie was hesitant at first, but she wanted her father to be happy. When Margaret moved into the estate after their wedding, she brought an air of sophistication with her. She dressed in fine clothes, spoke with grace, and knew how to win people over. At first, Margaret treated Lizzie warmly, giving her gifts and trying to bond with her. But Lizzie couldn't shake a strange feeling about her stepmother. Something about Margaret felt off. Not long after Margaret arrived, strange things started happening. Every night at midnight, Lizzie would hear the sound of drums coming from somewhere in the house. The rhythm was soft at first, but it grew louder, almost hypnotic. Along with the drums, she began hearing whispers, soft voices that called her name. At first, Lizzie thought she was dreaming, but the drums and whispers continued every night. She would get up and walk around the house, trying to find the source of the sounds, but they always seemed to fade when she got close. When Lizzie mentioned it to her father, he brushed it off as her imagination. Margaret, however, acted concerned. She comforted Lizzie, telling her it was probably the house settling or the wind. But Lizzie noticed something strange. Margaret always seemed tired during the day, as if she had been up all night. And there were times when Lizzie caught her stepmother in rooms she wasn't supposed to be in, whispering to herself. One day, while exploring the attic, Lizzie came across an old chest that had belonged to her mother. Inside, she found a dusty journal. The journal was filled with her mother's handwriting, notes, stories, and warnings about the family's dark past. As Lizzie read the journal, she uncovered a chilling secret. Her mother had written about an old curse tied to the estate, a curse that involved drums and dark rituals. The curse had been placed on the family generations ago by a jealous ancestor who wanted to ensure her own power and wealth. The journal also mentioned a woman named Margaret, someone her mother suspected of being tied to the curse. Lizzie's heart raced. Could this Margaret be the same one? And if so, what was she planning? That night, Lizzie decided to stay awake and follow the sound of the drums. She crept through the dark hallways, her heart pounding. The sound led her to a hidden door in the library. Behind it was a small, candlelit room filled with strange objects, a circle drawn on the floor, black candles, and a book written in a language Lizzie couldn't understand. In the center of the room stood Margaret, her face twisted in concentration as she performed a ritual. Lizzie watched in horror as Margaret whispered incantations and placed personal items belonging to Lizzie, a hairbrush, a scarf, into the circle. Margaret was trying to trap Lizzie's soul. If she succeeded, Lizzie would lose her spirit and inheritance, and Margaret would gain control of the family fortune. Terrified, Lizzie ran back to her room and turned to her mother's journal for guidance. The journal mentioned a protective symbol that could block the curse. Lizzie spent hours searching the estate, following the clues her mother had left behind. Finally, in an old jewelry box, she found a small pendant engraved with the protective symbol. The journal warned that the symbol had to be activated by courage and love. Lizzie wore the pendant around her neck and prepared to confront Margaret. That night, Lizzie went back to the hidden room. This time, she stepped inside. Margaret turned, shocked to see her. "You shouldn't be here, child," she said, her voice cold. Lizzie held her ground. "I know what you're doing," she said, clutching the pendant. Margaret laughed, her face darkening. "You think that little trinket will stop me? You're just a scared little girl." Margaret began chanting, and the room filled with the sound of drums and whispers. Shadows danced on the walls as the ritual grew stronger. But Lizzie stood firm, focusing on the love she had for her late mother and the courage she needed to save herself. The pendant began to glow, its light growing brighter and brighter until it filled the entire room. Margaret screamed as the light overwhelmed her, breaking the dark magic. The candles went out, and the room fell silent. Margaret was gone, her dark magic destroyed. The villagers whispered that she had been consumed by the very darkness she had summoned. Lizzie, now free of the curse, told her father everything. Heartbroken but grateful, Charles vowed to protect Lizzie and honor her mother's memory. Lizzie continued to live in the estate, but it no longer felt like a place of shadows. She carried her mother's pendant with her always, a reminder of the love and strength that had saved her. The midnight drums were gone, replaced by peace and light. And so, Lizzie became the true heir of her family's legacy, not just of wealth, but of courage, love, and the power to overcome darkness. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe for more interesting stories like this.